Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on your lunchtime or on your little break. I am Yvonne McBride. This is Yvonne McBride Lit Life. And in this space, we encourage, we motivate, we give women of the African diaspora the resources, the motivation, and the inspiration to live the life of their dreams. Whatever that dream looks like, whatever that next stage for you looks like, that's what we do here. So if you are in the middle of a transition, if you are on the way to your next stage, this is the space that you want to be in. Hey, Chanel, um, join us on this talk. Like, subscribe, and share this video with people of like-minded women. Today, you are in for a treat. We have a sister who has changed her life. Um, she has seen new heights and she is living in Spain. So, with that, I want to introduce you to Kiersten Brown. Kiersten, introduce yourself to the people.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for having me, Yvonne. I'm super excited to be here, and I hope that I really can help someone, even if it's just one person, change their life or live their life more authentically, live their life in a way that they want to, that feels true to them. And so I think that's part of the reason why I want to do that is because that's part of who I am. I think I've always had a way of living my life, where if I want to do something, I'm going to go do it. I wasn't a really shy kid when I was younger. I wasn't also a very like extroverted person, but I always just kind of liked doing my own thing. And one of those things was traveling, and I started solo traveling I think when I was around probably early 20s. um, and my parents, they when we were a family, when we were together and I was younger, we traveled a lot, so the travel bug was something that bit me really early on. And traveling kind of helped me shape who I was, because I felt like I could get out of this box that I was in, because I grew up in California, in South Bay area, which I love. But when you grow up around the same group of people, and even though I went to different high schools, I kind of felt like I had this like persona of who I was, or people thought like, oh, that's Kiersten. And it would just, and still to this day, one of my pet peeves is when someone tells me like who they think I am, or tells me like, oh yeah, oh you're not like that, or you're too nice, you wouldn't do that. I'm like, you don't know me. Like, excuse me. So yeah, and I don't like being put in a box. And I think when I was growing up too, I was like the token black girl in a lot of areas, a lot of groups. So that was also another label that was put on me. So I'm a person that I don't like labels. I like expansiveness. I like growing, and I like following my passions.
So I know, Chanel, we know about the echo. I've tried to work it out. I'm gonna try to talk less so you don't hear it. Um, but when we talk about boxes, right? Especially in relation to you being Black in America, that box, right? You just said, we're all about labels here in the US. Um, Either the token Black, or you're not Black enough, or you're hood Black, all of these things. How do you think moving out of the country impacted that?
Yeah, I always kind of felt like my parents were really good at teaching me my histories. Like I always felt very connected to my ancestors, to my past. I knew Black history, but in like those boxes that you said of like Blackness, I never felt like I fit into one of those in the States. Like there was like your ghetto hood, or your hood Black, or you're kind of like not quite hood but like a little bit above. And then if you were like if you spoke a certain way, or if you didn't have that like accent or whatever, that like Black scent or whatever, then it was like, okay, you're whitewashed, so you're kind of Black but you're not. And so when I traveled, I realized that like, oh, okay, I get to introduce me, and no, and like the concept of blackness is so different um, outside of the United States. You know, there people know that there's black people. They know like they're African Americans, but I kind of felt like I can just say who I am, and I can introduce myself, and I can act how is natural to me, and no one's gonna be like, oh, she's whitewashed, or she's ghetto, or she's this. It's just like, oh, that's just Kiersten, because I had this blank slate, and people aren't as obsessed with labels from what I found in the places I have gone as they are in the United States, because they just know I'm American, and they might have some perceptions about that, but there was more curiosity. I think that was it. People were more curious about me rather than in the US. They're just like, oh, let me find out X, Y, and Z about you so I can put you in a box,
Yes,
and then that's it. Yeah.
yes. And you were able to find your authentic self, or you were able to
Mm-hmm.
show people your authentic self without them, automatically putting you in your place, basically.
Exactly. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before let's get into your what were you doing before you left? Before you left the States, what was your life like?
Yeah. So I kind of had my life a little bit figured out, you know. I had went to school for child development because I loved working with kids and I like psychology. And I was working in a really well known or well established, as to say, well established preschool that was in Santa Monica. So I was like commuting to work like an hour a day to an hour back from work. And I really liked it. I loved working with kids. And I thought I was going to be there for, I didn't think I was going to be there for like ever. There was people that were there for like 10 years. I was like, oh, I could probably do like maybe 6 years. And then I was one of those people, like I was just doing it all. I was working, and then I would get off of work and I would do some gig. I was like doing dance gigs. I was volunteering. I was doing presentations. I was all over the place, because that's kind of how I felt like I had to be. And I think I just had a lot of energy too. So I was working in a preschool, giving workshops, giving dance classes, doing all the things. And then one day went into my boss's office, and they told me that they weren't going to renew my contract in the year to come. So I was
Oh
pretty much
wow.
getting laid off. Yeah, and then so that was heartbreaking, but I took a year to kind of do my own thing after I got laid off, and I was like working in after school program, and I was teaching like yoga in schools, and I was kind of doing my own thing. And I had pitched my own business to work within the school district, and it got rejected. So I was like, oh my god, double rejection within like 2 years. I was like, what is happening? And so it's just like, you know what? Maybe the
Time to
universe
go.
is telling me it's time to go. And I'd
Time to
always wanted
go.
to. It's time to go. And I was just like, you know what? This is something I've always wanted to do. I wanted to study abroad in college, but never took the opportunity. And so I was like, okay, let's do this. So yeah, so I in 2017, I booked a one-way ticket to Panama City, and went from Panama for 2 years, traveled around South America for a little bit, and then came to Spain, and I've been in Spain for the last 5 years.
Okay, so what were you doing in Panama?
In Panama, I was teaching English and teaching yoga, and also teaching dance. And then I worked for a year at a school, an English school that was like first starting up. So teaching, yeah. So I went from teaching in the States, and then I was teaching again in Panama, and then the teaching when I first came to Spain, and then after 3 years, I did a career change, and I went to freelance writing and coaching.
Okay, so let's back up. How did you prepare? Did you go to find a job, a teaching job, or did you have that job before you left the US?
When I went to Panama, I was teaching English online,
Okay.
and I was teaching online. And then when I got to Panama, I just started networking. So I went to all of the groups, the expat groups. I was in Facebook groups, and so I really just hustled the first year I was there. I ended up teaching yoga to a certain group of people, One of my friends, she hired me to teach dance classes, and then my second year in Panama, again, just a lot of networking in the Facebook groups. I was approached by a woman who was starting an English school in Panama, so she offered me a job there. And then in Spain, there was a teaching English program that you can apply for through the
Okay.
government. And so that's what got me to Spain.
Okay. Did you choose Spain? Did the program choose the country for you, or you chose Spain?
I chose the program, if that makes sense, but the program chose where I was going to go in Spain. Yeah.
Okay. So I hear preparation was reaching out, networking,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
using your already gifts, teaching
Mm-hmm.
to find out what you're going to do in another country, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then researching the programs that would get you to what you wanted to do, which was
Yeah.
leave the country.
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. So now we're in Spain, right?
Mm-hmm.
What area are you in? And how was that transition for you? How was that first? How long have you been there? What area you're in? And what was that transition process like for you?
Yeah. So when I first came to to Spain, I went to a city called Cartagena, which is on the coast. It is the smaller city, and coming to Spain, there were a lot of different cultural shocks because the culture is very different, as some people might know. Just things of like diets, because there's a lot of jamon, there's a lot of ham, a lot of eating ham, and I don't eat red meat, so that was an adjustment. The times of when they eat, so they eat like a lot later in the evening, things like that. And so it was when I was in Cartagena, it was great because I was by the ocean, and I'm from California, and I lived on the coast, so I'm a big beach girl. But then the program that I was in changed me to where I am now in a smaller city called Jaén. And that is in the south of Spain, but in the mountains. So I'm no longer on the coast, which was a shock for me. But I am surrounded by absolutely beautiful mountain ranges, so I'm very happy for that. And a lot, and the language too was also like a big adjustment. I had some Spanish just from like living in Panama, but not too much. But then even too with my Spanish in Latin America, it's different than the Spanish in
Right.
Spain, and the accents are different. So I just like, oh, it was. I just remember having to put so much concentration and like listening to
What
like
they were
figure
saying.
out. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is different, and everyone speaks fast or fast-ish. Like even when you ask them to speak slow, they still just kind of like automatically speak fast. So the language, the food was also a big cultural shock. Yeah, but it was all stuff that like I adapted to. It wasn't something that was just like, oh, I can't do this. And I know that there's a lot of mixed reviews with Spain, because I've heard some stories, people saying like, oh, we'll never go back. Black people in particular, they're like, no, that's not for me. But I was very fortunate. I felt like I was very welcomed. Maybe because I came in as an English teacher, so maybe that kind of put this like positive label on me. Maybe, but I felt like, especially where I live now, I feel like people here are very friendly. Even like I go to the store and I can just buy something and just end up having a conversation with the person that's selling me fruit, and things like that. So I was very fortunate to kind of ease into the culture because the people were very welcoming.
So do you feel, because I have heard different, things about our Black experience there. So do you feel like it's the area that you're in? Like if you were in a bigger city, you would have a different experience, Madrid or Barcelona or something?
I mean, I've spent a lot of time in Madrid, and I've actually there's a lot more black communities in Madrid and in Valencia too. I definitely have spent a lot of time there. So I think I go to like when I need kind of like a cultural embrace. I want to say like because like that's the thing. There are some like Africans here, but there's not a lot of like Black Americans here.
Okay.
So where I live, so when I kind of need that fix, I can know that I can go to Madrid, I can go to Valencia. I have some friends that even some friends that are not Black Americans, but they're like Black British or like Black Jamaican, and there's still this like cultural ties.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like, I mean, most places that I've been in Spain have been very welcoming to me. Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, the bigger cities as well, and the smaller cities. I don't know why that's different from other people. Like I wish I could say like, oh, this is why this person's experience was like this, and this is why mine was like this. Like I don't really know, but I've
It could
just
be anything. It could be their, they're projecting
yeah.
their how they intake certain stares. It could be
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Yeah.
Also, people visiting is different from you living there.
This is true. This is true. Mm-hmm.
So it could be a number of things, but
Yeah.
I want to take a pause. I see we have some people who have entered the room. If you don't say hello in the chat, I don't know that you're here. I don't know who you are. So please say hello in the chat so that we can acknowledge and thank you for being here. If you have any questions for Kirsten, please put them in the chat with the Q so that we can go back so that I can identify them. Okay. So you're in Spain, you're in high end, you're teaching, right? You're by yourself, you travel solo. How did you, how did you find your community? How did you network? Because you've been there how long?
I've been here in the city that I'm in for 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In Spain in 5 years, and so I found community in a lot of different ways. When I first moved to Cartagena, I found community many different ways through like what is it called? Like Facebook groups, language exchanges. I had a one of my good friends now. I was a teacher in one of the schools that I was working with. She would invite me to places. So I have a lot of trial and error. Like I would go to some language exchanges and they would be hit or miss, and I'd be like, okay, this is nice, but I didn't really find anyone that I connected with. And then I would go again, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, these people are cool. And then just the Facebook's groups too. I think that Black people. Anytime you go anywhere, we're like, okay, where are the Black people? Where are the other Black people? So when some of my one of my best friends that I have now, she's actually another Black American from New York, and she connected to me on Facebook, and we met up. So just kind of through trial and error with Facebook groups, language exchanges was one way, and then the other way that I found community was through dance.
Okay.
And so that yeah, that community came about through it was hard at first because I needed a dance community, and I didn't have one at first because of COVID. Because I've been here throughout COVID, and that's when like nothing was open, no dance studios were open, and so that was really hard. Just not having people
I
that like it
can,
was nice to have people that like I could go get coffee with and chat with, but I was just like, oh, but it's different when if anyone's a dancer, then having your dancers friends is a little bit different than having people that don't dance. And so that took a while to find, and I started taking Latin dance classes. I took a salsa class, and we ended up with that salsa class. We ended up doing a performance at one of the Latin congresses. So having that time together with that group of people kind of created a sense of community for me.
so
And
how
then
far into your stay there did you find?
yeah, that's a great question. I think this is probably my second year into. So
Okay.
it took a good like year and a half to actually start building community. And I think that's the thing that the point that I wanted to highlight is that it does take time to build community. So if you move abroad and you don't find community right away, like don't get discouraged. I think what helped me hold it together was like I stayed in contact with my friends at home. I did video calls so that way like I had something to
Yes.
sustain me until I found my people. But yeah, so I did dance classes, and then I found again, the internet. I don't even know how I found one of my friends, and I think I shouted her out on the last interview I did. But I found another, like a tap dancer, and I found her on Instagram, and I messaged her, and we connected. She was in Madrid, so I went out to Madrid for a tap class that introduced me to other people. And so that created a community there in Madrid. And here now I dance flamenco. So have a dance community there. I still do Latin dances, so I have my little like Latin dance community here. So just really dance and putting myself out there and not being afraid to like randomly message people on the internet. That's all.
So I hear, right? I hear you going out of your shell, right, to
Yeah.
find community. You
Yes.
weren't expecting them to come to you.
No. Mm-mm. No, no, no. It would be
Yeah.
nice. I think we all want that. But
Yeah. Yes, yes. And that you, in pursuing your passion, doing what you love, you created your own community naturally, right?
yes.
Organically.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And that's what was surprising to me about you. Like here in the lit life space, we encourage people to explore every parts of themselves, right? Multi-dimensional lives, right? So I started following you from Awkward Black Nomad from that video that you did with her last year, and I was like, oh, I see you doing the flamingo dancing. Like, okay, hits, good hits. So we're not only you're in. What I find it apropos is that you are in the land of passion, right? Pursuing all of your passion,
Yeah.
and not you're taking yourself out of the box, and you're pursuing every dimension of your existence.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's what that's what we're about here.
Yeah.
I don't believe, well, the saying is, jack of all trades, but if you know the rest of that quote, and then we all have different aspects to ourselves, different talents, and exploring those can open your life up to a whole new, levels that you never thought existed. So that's what I
Yes.
appreciate about you and your feed. You're not just talking about writing. You're not just talking about traveling. You're talking about dancing and how living in Spain has opened you up and expanded your life.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. Sometimes I'm just posting really random stuff. There's a point to it, but I
There's a point,
appreciate you.
right? We all have pillars to who to who we are, right? So
Exactly.
you're exploring all of that. I appreciate that. So the Aqua Black Nomad, he wants to know, do you think being able to speak the language has helped you build community?
I think that's an excellent question. In some incidences, yes. I was fortunate when I first came to Spain that I did meet a lot of English speakers. But I think that especially because like my flamenco classes and my Latin dance classes, they're all in Spanish. So if I didn't know the language, like even though I don't have like a fluent level, I have a strong level, but it's not fluent. If I didn't have the level that I had, then it would be harder. I think there would be barriers. I think I would have community, but it might look a little bit different than it is. There might be, yeah, I wouldn't be as close to some people as I am, but definitely learning the language supported the depth of the community that I have now.
Okay. Okay, so you are dancing, you're teaching. What was your teaching life like there?
My teaching life it was a lot different from teaching in the United States. So teaching, the program is like a language assistant program. So you're only working like you're not working as like a head teacher. You're working as an assistant, and so that can still be stressful sometimes too, depending on the school that you have. So like side note, really fast, if people are thinking about doing the language assistant program to come to Spain, your experience will be heavily dictated on the type of school that you go to. Some schools are like my schools that I've had were very supportive and they helped me out and it was great. Some schools don't really give two craps about their language assistants and it's harder. But differences between teaching in the US and teaching in Spain, it was a lot calmer because I was an assistant. So I only had to work, I think, like 15 to 20 hours a week.
Okay.
So that was nice. And there was less responsibility because I kind of just had to go in and teach English versus like when I was teaching in the States, I was teaching preschool, but I was the one of the head teachers and so I had to be responsible like everything. And so this whole child's like well-being, was my responsibility from their behavior to if they were learning their numbers to, their social emotional learning and things like that. So yeah, so it's definitely a lot calmer teaching in my experience. It was a lot calmer teaching in the U.S. Sorry, teaching in Spain than teaching in the U.S. And learning and then having to teach students that don't know English was also very very interesting because I'm there to teach them English, but they don't really know English. So having to communicate in English, but also communicate a little bit in Spanish, but like not too much because they didn't like it when you spoke Spanish. And then just finding different ways to connect and being able to share my culture with these group of people, with these students, was something that I don't think I really had when I was teaching in the U.S. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, teaching is my background too, education. You love the
You
kids,
love the
but the
kids, but
pay
the pay
pay is not
pay is
always
not
great.
always great. No.
Um, so I'm
So I'm
assuming
assuming
that was part reason why you transitioned from teaching to freelance.
yeah, it was part of the reason. Yeah, because when you are teaching English, I'll be very transparent with the numbers. Where I was teaching, so in the south of in the Andalusia region, I think the pay is about 700 euros a month. And I know that sounds really low. It is, but it's doable. And then I think I started at 875 euros because I was in a different region, and I think in Madrid it's like 1,000 euros a month.
Okay.
So those salaries are livable, especially if you have roommates. But it's you're living paycheck to paycheck, and you're only going to make that. You're only going to make that amount of money. You're not going to make anything more. So when I transitioned to freelance writing, it was partially to not be able to not be in this like income cap, and also because the program that I was in, there was a 2-year limit.
Okay.
So if I wanted to continue in the program, I'd have to change regions. I didn't really want to do that. And while I was teaching, I had started freelance writing on the side, and I was just like, well, I'm I'm making pretty good money doing this. Like, I wonder if I could pursue this full time. Like, how much can I earn? Can I support myself? And I've been doing it. So I went for it, and it's yeah. So it's something that now because I can set my own prices. Because I'm working in a different area, I have the potential to gain more than what I would have if I was just teaching English.
Okay, so let's backtrack for a second. You said about $700 a month. How much was your rent? How much is your rent? How much was your
Yeah, so
transportation, food, all of that?
yeah. Yeah. So a lot of people, my first year, I had roommates. So my rent was about like 200 euros or something like that. And then my second year, I was just like, no, I don't really want to do roommates anymore. So then my rent went up to about 400, which is what it's been for like the last 3 years. Is about 400. I've moved places, but it's been about 400 euros a month for rent
Okay.
for like a 1 bedroom. And yeah, and so then there's like electricity's been a little bit tricky these last couple of years. I will say that. I think everywhere electricity's kind of gone up. But my electricity bill has ranged from like 30 euros a month to like 90 euros a month, just depending on the time. So, so yeah, so the cost of living is definitely lower, which I think also helped me transition into freelance writing, because I was just like, look, I was teaching English and I was, making ends meet with 700 euros a month. So if I can at least make that, then I'll be good. If I can make more than that, then I'll be even better. But these numbers, 700, 1,000, euros, this is not something you could probably live on if you were in the States. So
Absolutely not. Yes, absolutely not. Yeah, I live in one of the most affordable places, big cities, no, big town, little cities, and no, you cannot survive on $1,000
yeah.
a month. So, okay, you're transitioning to freelance. Did you have clients? You said you started while you were teaching. How did you find clients? What were you writing? Right? What kind of freelance were you doing? Let's start with that.
Yeah. I started doing what's called like editorial pitches or editorial publications, which is pretty much working for publications like Travel Noir, there's the Financial Diet, publications that are essentially like magazines, but they're, online. So I started pitching these editorials, and I would, every now and then I would get published. And then I found a part time position working for a publication as a freelancer. So that was like one client that I secured early on. And I still have that client today. And then I started really, it's all about identifying like who you want to work with and what you want to write about. So I knew that I wanted to write about travel and personal finance. And then from that, and entrepreneurship. And so from those like three niches, I looked for people in the companies or publications in those niches and reached out to them. And so I've worked with more publications. I've worked with different companies. I've worked with entrepreneurs. Yeah, and I've mostly found clients either by word of mouth. So someone like, maybe seeing something that I posted or someone passing on my information, or by just directly pitching, which means just like finding, and this is probably the number one way, even my business coach always reminds us of this. The number one way to find clients is usually through networking or through pitching. Finding a company, writing to them, seeing if they need help with, A, B, and C, and offering your service to them. Yeah.
So cold pitching and networking. So are you pitching in the US or where you are? I know I'm waiting for an update because you said you were going to start
Yes.
pitching locally. Have you done that?
Yeah, I have. It's been slow,
Okay.
but that's to be expected. I'm working on a new project now to pitch some local tourism companies where I live, but I do mostly pitch abroad, just because I think it is easier in a sense, because I think American businesses are used to working with freelancers, and I don't think Spanish companies are that used to
Okay.
working with freelancers. Yes, so you have to. So yeah, thinking about where you are, the region. I think some businesses in certain countries are more open to freelancers, and some are a little like hesitant.
Okay. So when we say pitching for novice writers or novice freelancers, can you describe what your pitching process looks like?
Yeah,
Like the
and I'm just gonna turn on the light. There you go, a little bit of illumination. Okay, so this also goes for I think anybody that is a freelancer, not just like freelance writers, but you always want to do a little bit of research on who you're pitching. Especially if you're a writer and you're doing an editorial pitch, which you're pitching a publication, make sure you read the publication before, read an article, go to their website, or something, because one, if you know about the company, it's gonna make it easier for you to pitch your services, because when you pitch them, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, this person knows about our company or has the same values as our company. So know the company. Find out who you want to pitch, like your niches. You don't have to, like, I always say to niche down to like one, two, or three niches. Um, in that way, because I say to do that, and you can always change your niche. You can start like, oh, I want to start, pitching, I don't know, jewelry companies. And then you can start that and then you can change it down the line, but have a focus. I say this as a person that is a Gemini and likes to like do 20 different things at once, but try to have a focus and then pitch, figure out who you want to pitch, what niche you want to work in, pitch those companies, research those companies, and make it consistent. that was been that's been one of the things that I struggle with early on is being consistent, because you're going to get a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of no answers, people just like not answering your emails, but it is a numbers game. So the more that you do it and the more that you can create a habit of just constantly pitching your services and putting yourself out there, then the easier it'll become and the more you'll increase your chances of actually landing a client. And the last thing I would say is following up. So if you send an email and you haven't heard back from them, like 2 weeks later, send another email to make sure that they got it. That's okay. That's totally acceptable, because people's inboxes are, you know, I have so many emails in my inbox right now. I don't even want to say how many. So sometimes emails get lost. So it's always important to follow up, and if you didn't hear back from them the first time.
I think those are great suggestions, great tips. I hope you were taking notes um, for our beginning writers. Okay, so you have clients, you are adding to your streams of incomes, right?
Yes.
Um, what comes next? What is after you have your portfolio, you're pitching, right, to your clients, um, travel content, financial content.
Mm-hmm.
How does that tie into, you say that you're coaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
How
Mm-hmm.
does that tie into your coaching life?
Yeah, so I feel like when I first started writing, I started talking about my travels, and how I moved abroad. I think one of the first published articles that I had was how I moved abroad, how I moved to Panama. And so I noticed that a lot of people were interested in that, and I noticed a lot of people were wanting to live abroad. And one of the challenges I think that a lot of people face is finances. I think so many people are worried about like how much is it going to cost? Like what do I do for money? Managing my money, things like that. So because I write about travel and because I write a lot about personal finance, and these are questions that intersect, these are subjects that often intersect, that's where my coaching started to develop, in helping people to be able to prepare their finances to travel more or move abroad, live abroad, take a sabbatical, but to not allow their finances to limit the life that they want to have.
So what kind of finance coaching do you provide? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, so I pretty much focus on travel and personal finance. So, for example, if somebody is thinking about doing long term travel, and that's like the biggest question, it's just like, well, how do I afford that? Or if someone is thinking like, I want to start traveling more, but how do I afford it? So I we so my coaching focuses on too many thoughts coming to my head at one time. My coaching focuses on looking at a person's finances and seeing where they're at. Because I think that's also another thing too. A lot of people don't know how to look in at their finances in a way that is helpful and subjective. And it's
Yes.
also very uncomfortable. Like, well, let's be honest. When you talk about looking at our bank accounts, looking at our money,
Yes.
is
Looking
very
at your debt.
uncomfortable. Looking at your debt is very uncomfortable. And so I think that there's a lot of emotion and fear and mindset that keeps people from taking that first step. So we break that down. So we look at your mindset, we look at what beliefs are blocking you, and saying like, okay, how do we rewrite those beliefs? How do we create new ones? And let's take a practical approach. Let's look at your finances, look at where you want to go. Also, let's like, okay, so are you trying to take this like big fancy vacation that's going to cost you like $10,000, or are you just trying to go somewhere that's like, affordable? Or are you just trying to get to Mexico, or are you trying to get halfway across the country? So I think it's taking these like really big dreams and ideas and fears that people have, breaking them down and saying like, okay, this is your travel goal. You want to travel for 6 months. You want to take this trip by next summer. You want to move abroad. How do we make that happen, and what do we need to do with your finances to make that happen for you?
So, if this is something that you want to do, if looking at other people, especially now, in the stage and the tension that we are feeling here in the US, if you want to take a sabbatical, if you want to move abroad, like Miss Brown has done, expand your life, she can show you how to budget, right? How to
Yes.
financially plan this trip. I have put her YouTube video information in the chat. It's also below this video. Reach out.
Yes.
Reach out to Ms. Brown. You offer freelance coaching.
Yes, it's something that I haven't formally started. More so, like if someone has questions, they can just message me and I'll answer them. But if so, yeah. So I'm like an open book. So like if you have questions about freelancing or about finances or whatever, you can feel free to ask me. And I will do my best to answer and give you the insight. If you have a specific problem, like if you like maybe want to start freelancing but you don't know how to start, or you're stuck in a certain area, or maybe you started and you've like hit a plateau or whatever. If that's something that you want more individual help with, then that I would definitely consider coaching someone through freelancing. Or I would recommend some of the resources that I have used, because I have worked with coaches. I am working with a coach too about freelancing. So yeah, but off the top, if you just have questions about freelancing, then I'm definitely here to help. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to backtrack a little bit. We talked about passion. My passion is eating. I love food. Kiersten,
Mm-hmm.
where is my list? Where is my spots in Spain list? My food list. I'm waiting for it. Where is it?
I will send you the link to my blog, but I just posted a blog I think last week about
Okay.
it's an ongoing list of places in Madrid that I love. There's some vegan places, a Mexican place. So the great thing about Madrid is that you can find a lot of international food. Like I go to Madrid to eat. so so yeah, so that's I will send you the list. And I'm going back up to Madrid I think later this month. So I'll be adding to that list of places to eat.
And I will post it under here. That's what listen, this is you supposed to update me. I'm coming to eat. You said it has
Yes.
good paella. I'm coming to eat.
Yes. Paella is yeah. That is in
So
Valencia. Yeah, Valencia is the region.
tell us what else do you love about your region? What else do you love about living in Spain? How has this move abroad expanded your life?
Yeah. I've finally learned to slow down. Not all the time. I'm still kind of fast paced. But when I say slow down, what that means for me is I've learned to understand what my anxiety is or was, and slowing down has helped me to regulate my nervous system a lot more. Because, and the reason why that has happened is because a lot of people here in Spain, especially where I live, people don't really rush. They kind of take their time. People are not, they're very present. When they're off of work, they're off of work. Not to say that people aren't stressed. Not to say that there aren't, struggles here. Not to say that I haven't. Oh, Yvonne, I don't see you anymore.
I'm
Okay.
still here. I'm going off
Okay.
stage for a second.
Okay, I was like, oh no. We lost
Not again. Okay.
oh yes. Okay. Yes, but being here in Spain has helped me slow down. It has helped me to really appreciate a lot of the simplicity in life, because I can go out for a walk and feel safe. I can go out for a walk and be surrounded by nature because of where I live. There's a beautiful mountain ranges. I can go off into the mountains and find this kind of internal peace within myself. I can afford to go out and meet, and I have the time and the energy and the space to go out and meet a friend, on a random Tuesday for coffee or for tapas, or something like that. So I've been able to invest more. Slowing down also helps me to invest more into my social life, so I can take the time and start to develop these relationships with people and pursue my hobbies, because now I'm dancing often. It's something that I can afford. It's something that I can just walk to a dance class or take a bus to a dance class. I don't have to fight traffic to try to get to a certain dance class. Um, and yeah, so I've been able to explore what I love, continue exploring, because I wasn't actually, tap dance has come back into my life after many, many years, probably more than 10 years. And I wasn't really tapping a lot when I was in California. I tapped when I was younger. So tap came back into my life, and I think just never know what's going to come into my life, and that's just exciting because I never thought I was going to be taking flamenco. I wasn't like that into it when I first got to Spain, and then now I'm taking flamenco. And yeah, I just, a lot of things have come into my life that I didn't expect, and it's helped me to get uncomfortable but grow, meet new people, and that's what's really exciting.
Listen, I'm saying when I seen that flamingo dance, I'm like, okay, come on. You were doing it like you have been doing it since you were two. So for you to say you weren't doing like this is a new dance that you picked up, bravo. You are really
Thank
doing
you.
it. But you said I remember you saying that it helped you with fear. Dancing has helped you break out of fear. Explain that. What does that mean?
I think it's funny because I think you have to be a dancer, you have to overcome some type of fear, because everyone's always in some way, shape, or form. In some moment, people are always like worried about what people think of them. They're worried about how they're going to be perceived. And when you're dancing, you can either worry about that and not dance and not give it your all, or you can let that go and dance and fear and risk maybe looking silly or maybe looking a little bit awkward. But when you get past that, when you can put yourself out there and you get to a place where you have this connection with the music, and you have this understanding of how your body should move, then you feel there's this like confidence that's really hard to describe, but you just feel most like yourself. I think when you dance, when you can let that go, let the fear of like, what do people think? What if I mess up? What if this happens? Because a million things can go wrong anytime, especially when you're performing, especially if you start dancing and perform. It's like, I always am like so terrified before I perform. I love performing, but I am always terrified. Always terrified. I'm just like, okay, I'm like always like, what is the first move? What is the first move? Like, I'm always
Listen,
like
being
in my
on
head.
Front Street on the stage is different. Like I'm assuming that like that has you're not worried about pitching cold, right? So some people have so many fears behind, reaching out, networking. But if you can get on the stage and dance and move, then
Exactly.
everything else, falls beneath that.
That is exactly it. That is exactly it. If you can get yourself to move, I always tell myself, if I can get myself to do the first move, then I'm good. Because that's the hardest part. I already know it's already in my body. Everything is here. I just have to do the first move and let go, and everything will take care of itself.
Yes. Um, hey Angela.
Hey, hey, Angela.
So thank you all for being in the chat. Thank you for saying hello. If you have made it this far, please like the video. If you like this content, if you want to follow Kiersten and tune into her journey, her life in Spain, get coaching, join her on her YouTube. It is under this video, and it's also in the chat. If you have any questions for Kirsten about living in Spain, please put them in the chat so we can ask her. Okay, so what is next on your and for you in 2025? Like, what are you planning to do this year?
Yeah. Gosh. What am I trying to do? I'm definitely trying to work more with local tour, like with my freelance business. I'm trying to work more with local businesses here. So that's something that I just feel like where I live is kind of like a lesser known region. And so I really want to work with some tourism companies to promote their stuff online. So getting a Spanish client would be great. Um, I also have an intention to do more creative collaboration with people. So I'm still figuring out exactly what that looks like, but it might be just like coming together with people and creating dances. I talked
Okay.
about, I have a friend who also does Irish dancing, and we were talking about just like getting together. Like I tap dance, which is very similar to Irish dancing, and she does her Irish dancing, and we just like we come together and we like jam things like that. I'm doing a traditional bachata class and wanting to mix traditional bachata with hip hop dance. So trying to like collaborate creatively with other creatives in my life is something that I want to do. Um, what else? Haven't solidified my travel plans, but I've been wanting to go up to the north of Spain because I've explored a lot of the south region, but the north is supposed to be like completely different environment than the south. So just exploring more of Spain, exploring more of Europe,
So we haven't
and
gotten to your adventures, your countries. Like what cities have you explored since you've been over there? What country have you explored? What is your favorite?
yeah. I've in Spain. I've explored Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, Sevilla or Seville, Cordoba, Granada, which is where I live, near where I live, Malaga, a lot of smaller towns in the region that I live. The list kind of goes on.
So
And
I
then outside,
interviewed someone from Sevilla last week.
oh yeah, yeah,
Her area sounds pretty dope too, right?
yeah. No,
Small
Sevilla is
town.
definitely it's
Yeah.
also a good place to eat. They got some good restaurants there too.
Okay, I need a list from her. All right.
All right, second list. We got Madrid. Now go down to
Yes.
Seville.
Okay.
And outside of Spain, I've been to Portugal. I've been to France. I think Italy is next on the list, so definitely going there. Um, yeah, so I think just kind of being able to collaborate more, to be able to explore more. Oh yeah, I've been to Cadiz too. I forgot I've been to Cadiz. Getting to explore more of Spain. Because Spain is, I think that's the thing about Spain. It's so different depending on the region that you're in. And so getting to explore more of Spain, getting to explore more of Europe, and just meeting people. I think I really just love getting to know people and meeting people and being able to help more people too. I definitely want to be able to connect to more people and help them in whatever areas of life that they need.
So you're not scouting another country to live in. You're going to stay in Spain, basically. So you're not scouting another country to live in. You're going to stay in Spain. Basically.
No, yeah. I am working on getting long-term residency here. I have short-term residency here. So I have to renew my residency in 2026. So after I renew, I want to do a long-term residency. So this can be my home base, and then I can just go out and travel without having to like worry about restrictions or having to come back at a certain time. So yeah, that's my long-term goal. It's long-term
Okay, so what
residency.
kind of visa are you on? And what was that process
Yes.
like?
Long. So I came on a student visa. And then I switched over to what's called an autonomous visa. And pretty much what that allows me to do is work as a freelancer, so I can work with clients outside of Spain and within Spain. A lot of people ask me like, what's the difference between the visa that I'm on and the digital nomad visa, which is very popular now. So the digital nomad visa, it restricts you from only working with clients like outside of Spain. So if you want to come to Spain and you want to work with people in Spain, like if you want to work for an academy or do your own business or something in Spain, then the digital nomad visa would restrict you from that. But the visa that I'm on, it allows me to work within the country. I had to do, I applied for it within the country because I was here already. So I could do that. I had to write a business plan. I
Oh,
had to translate that into Spanish. I had to do a
oh,
background check. I had to do an interview. I pretty much had to show that one, not only did I have a viable business, but two, I had to show that I was like integrated within society here. To
So
kind
this
of
is before, this is after the teaching?
Sorry, yes,
Okay.
after the student visa, yes. Because the student visa is only for like 9 months. And once I was out of the program, once I decided to freelance, I had to switch visas. So
So how
yes,
long did that
yeah.
process?
The process took about 7 months maybe to,
Okay.
it was more so like gathering all the documents. I had to gather documents here, I had to gather documents from the United States, I had to do a background check. And then I think when I submitted my paperwork, I submitted it in, I think, December of 2023. And then it took about 3 months for them to give me a response and say that like I could stay. So
Okay. So on this visa, you can stay how long? How often do you
uh,
have to renew?
I can the first time I applied for it, I could stay for a year, and then I renewed it, and so now I have a 2 year limit. So I have to renew my visa again in 2026.
Okay. So
Yes.
healthcare.
Yes. So because I'm on this visa, I have access to, and I have to pay Social Security every month, but I have access to the public health care, which does give me access to public health centers. I also have private insurance as well. I just personally felt better with that because usually with private insurance, I can see a doctor as much as I want as long as they're available.
Right.
I think the insurance with co-pays, I pay about 50 euros a month for 45 euros a month, sorry, about 45 euros a month for the insurance, and then co-pays will range anywhere from like 11 euros to like 20 euros. So it's affordable, a lot, and I've been really happy with the private healthcare system because if I couldn't find a doctor that I want to see where I live, my insurance will cover me to go to a doctor in another city.
Okay.
Yeah, so I feel like it's more efficient with the private healthcare. It's not, I don't have to have it because I'm covered with public, but I personally am just very happy with private.
Okay. So visa, y'all hear the visa process, affordable health care, it sounds like, but
Yes.
you have an extra healthcare plan.
Yes.
Okay. Um, what would you give people tips, right? If you are thinking of living abroad, give them mental, right? And financial preparation tips. Two, maybe two or three. Don't
Okay.
go.
Mental and financial. Okay, mental. I would say get before you go, try to get your like be comfortable with being uncomfortable. um yes, if you're someone that is kind of like really sensitive and doesn't like to be inconvenienced, I would work on that because you will be inconvenienced. You will have to wait for things. Things will happen and you won't know why they happened. You'll show up to a place that says it's open and then realize that it's closed and have to wait another week to go back to that place. You will miss the bus. You will like,
Not a week.
and then you
Okay.
yes. So just being comfortable. It's okay. You'll survive. Do your research before you move to a country. Talk to people. Don't just do research and talk to people. But know that any information that you get, you're still gonna be there's still gonna be a culture shock. Those experiences of other people might not be yours, so just take it with a grain of salt. But do your research so you know. Financially, I would saving money is always smart. So I when I moved abroad, I think I had like 3,000 saved or something like that, which helped me. But I hustled too, so that so that was another factor. So I would say figure out how much you need, and then put a little bit of extra on that. So if you want to move, figure out your cost of what it is to move, and then figure out what your budget was going to be when you move to that country. Like, so how do you want to live? Like, do you want to live by yourself? Do you want to have roommates? Do you want to have this luxurious apartment? Are you fine with something modest? So figure out those numbers. How much do you need to move? How much do you want to have saved for emergencies? How much, what is your cost of living when you move to this new country? And then understand how you are with money. Like, understand how you manage money. Are you someone that just impulsively spends? Are you someone that is kind of hoards money and like doesn't like to spend? Because whatever money habits that you have in the United States, you're going to bring them to your new country. Like, they're not
Wherever
going to
you
go
go,
away.
there you are. Wherever you go,
Yeah.
there you are.
Yeah, wherever you go, there you are. So figure out what your money bad habits are, figure out what your money good habits are, and whatever you want to change, try to do that before you go. You don't have to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to overspend. You're going to underspend. Things like that. But the more that you understand how you are with money, the easier that transition will be.
So, how are you frozen? Okay. How do you
Oh,
think
okay.
this move
Yeah.
abroad has changed your life on a grand scale?
On the grand scale, I think I'm just happier because I feel like I'm more in touch with who I am. Yeah, I don't think I like who I am now. I respect and love the Kiersten that was in California, but I think that she was overwhelmed. I think she was overworked. I think she was confused. She was insecure. But that's okay because that's who she was. But I like the Kiersten now that not perfect by any means, but is more confident, has pushed herself in different ways, has grown, has found community, and yeah, went for what she wanted and discovered who she is.
So, do you think you could have accomplished what you have accomplished here?
I don't think so. I don't think I would have accomplished things in the external world. And what I mean by that, I think I would have maybe I would have did a dance competition and won an award. Maybe I would have gotten a new job and gotten a top level of that job or whatever. I think I would have achieved things, but I think those internal achievements and that peace that I have now and that acceptance, so in that self love that I have now, I don't think I would have achieved that. Yeah.
Peace of mind. Peace of mind. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in people's mouth. I don't want to put ideas in people's minds. But when you expand yours, right? When you get out of certain situations, when you make certain choices, things can improve. Things will
Yeah.
expand. Blinders will come off, right?
Yes.
That's what living abroad can do. That's what a sabbatical can do. That's what just getting out of the United States
Mm-hmm.
to breathe
Mm-hmm.
can do for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you have liked this talk, this little chat, please share with people, women especially, who may enjoy this. If people who are thinking about moving abroad, people who have Spain on their bucket list, I apologize for the echoing, guys. Um, Kirsten, Kirsten has to go. She has another meeting. If you have questions really quickly, please post them before she leaves us. Thank you, ma'am. I
Thank
appreciate you. We're not
you.
even going to go into what happened yesterday, but I'm glad to say that's why I'm not even worried about this little echo. Y'all don't even know what we went through yesterday. Um, I appreciate you coming, speaking to my audience. Again, guys, if you want to document her journey, if you want to follow her journey, please follow her on her YouTube video, her YouTube channel. It is below this one. I've also put it in the chat. Her Instagram also is below this video. Is there anything that we have not talked about, Kirsten, that you want to address, want to leave with the listeners?
Um, I think the quote into my mind is feel the fear and do it anyway. Um, so yeah, that's what I just if you're afraid, it's okay. Feel it, but then keep going. Take even if you taking 10 small steps, every day, every other day towards your goal is better than not doing anything at all or waiting, perfect moment to take action. Just if something seems, I think my coach said this, like if you have this really big goal and it seems too much, like break it down to small steps. And so if the fear feels too real, too big, just what's the smallest step forward, take that step, and then take another step, and then take another step.
All steps counts. All small steps will get you to where you want to be.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I think that's perfect. We're going to end there. Thank you all for joining us again. Have a great week. I will see you soon.